December 12th, 2025. My name is David Knox, and I have MSA. And I don't know how to start this conversation, but I'm going to show you something you have not seen before, and it's very, very interesting. Now, how do I get myself into this very sophisticated article? Well, if you ever, been on a date with somebody, and you look at their skin, you're like, wow, you have some great skin, girl. You have MS, do you have MS? And I say that jokingly because we now might have the ability to diagnose MSA with just a skin swab. We have to rethink neurodegeneration from the outside in. So today, I'm going to talk to you about something that illustrates some of the most challenging questions in neurodegenerative diseases and how we diagnose them. So neurodegenerative conditions like Parkinson's disease and MSA can obviously upend our people's lives, families and communities. These disorders are progressive, complex, and historically incredibly hard to diagnose and treat. With MSA in particular, traditional approaches focus almost entirely on the brain, yet we are beginning to understand that the story of these diseases doesn't start or end solely in the brain. A recent pilot study by the MPJ Parkinson's disease out of China, and by the way, who better to have studies for MSA than China that has over a billion people? They're going to have more patients with MSA. So they have the MPJ over in China, Parkinson's disease, has opened up an exciting new chapter in the neuroscience playbook. In that study that we're talking about, researchers explored something surprisingly overlooked: the skin microbiome. That's right, the community of bacteria, fungi, and other microbes that live on the skin surface. For years, scientists have investigated the gut microbiome for its connections to neurology. So this study took it to the next bold step of asking whether the microbial ecosystems under the skin might also carry signatures of a neurodegenerative disease. Why the skin? Well, it's our largest organ, our first barrier with the outside world, and a rich habitat for microorganisms. Its microbes interact with our immune system, influence inflammation, and now may even reflect systemic changes linked to disease long thought to be purely neurologic. In this pilot study, researchers compared skin samples from people with MSA, Parkinson's, and healthy people. What they found was remarkable: distinct microbial patterns on the skin that were linked not just to disease presence, but also to disease features. Those microbial signatures were powerful enough to help classify individuals into the correct group. Well, what does that mean? It means that our outermost layer, the skin, may carry clues to processes happening deep inside the nervous system. It suggests that neurodegenerative disease doesn't just affect neurons; it may leave breadcrumbs all across the body's ecosystem, including the parts we interact with every single day. Let's pause to appreciate how significant that is. For decades, we focused almost exclusively on brain imaging, clinical exams, and cerebral spinal markers to understand neurodegeneration. That work has been essential, but it's also been slow, expensive, and sometimes invasive. By contrast, microbiome sampling is non-invasive, scalable, and could potentially be done outside of clinical settings. This discovery doesn't just add a piece to the puzzle, it changes the shape of the puzzle itself. It invites us to think multidimensionally, integrating neurology with immunology, microbiology, and systems biology. It underscores a hopeful truth that answers to the hardest questions are not confined to the organs we traditionally study, but may be found in the connections between systems. That brings us to the heart of the optimism behind this research. First, it suggests new routes for earlier diagnosis. If the skin microbiome can reflect the biology of disease, then we may one day develop simple screening tools that are less invasive than small taps and potentially more accessible than MRI scans. Second, this line of research highlights that neurodegenerative diseases are systemic, not purely cerebral. That's a game changer. It means we can expand our therapeutic targets beyond neurons to immune modulation, microbial balance, and even skin brain communication pathways. Third, and perhaps most importantly, this work fosters a mindset of scientific innovation. It reminds us that progress often comes from asking, what if, and then being brave enough to pursue the answer. Yes, this is early research. Yes, these findings seek confirmation in larger studies, but the implications are profound. They point toward a future where neurological diseases are understood not as isolated brain disorders, but as conditions with signatures throughout the body, signatures we can measure, monitor, and ultimately influence. So today, let's celebrate this step forward, a step that challenges assumptions, expands horizons, and brings us closer to a future where neurodegenerative diseases are detected earlier, treated more effectively, and perhaps even prevented. Because in science, as in life, hope is not just a feeling; it's a trajectory built on curiosity, validated through evidence, and propelled forward by discoveries like this one. I want to point out two photos for you to help better understand this. Now, the first one, you're going to yell at me and say, Dave, why would you do this to me? All these colors and graphs and, why? Simple, because we have to. There were 31 patients in this 31 MSA patients, 20 Parkinson's, and 30 healthy control, right? Now we can see they changed color patterns from the left to the right. We're really looking at the right grid here. All these charts to the right. MSA being in red, healthy is green, and Parkinson is in blue. So here's what we know. So there are two areas specifically that they look for changes in the skin microbiome. One being the cervical or the neck, and the second being the axillary or armpit for MSA. So taking samples of skin in the microbiome in these areas shows us a pattern. So in patients that have MSA, they showed increased bacillus right here in the middle. You remember the red increase from healthy patients. So you see that both MSA and blue Parkinson's is increased over the healthy patients in green. There's an increase. Bacillus is environmental skin associated bacteria. An increase may reflect altered skin immunity or sweat composition in MSA. Next increase we would see in patients with MSA is the towards the bottom, the Pivotal 7. Again, you can see the increase with MSA, slight increase in Parkinson's, and healthy is all the way down. So this is a big marker for MSA. Pivotal 7 is an anaerobic genus typically found on mucosal areas. Increased levels may indicate changes in skin moisture, sebum, or local inflammation. Back to the skin, right? How many times do we complain about issues with our skin with MSA for many things? Now, also, we would see for MSA patients an increase in the strep talk. That's at the very bottom. And also, MSA in red is off the chart. But Parkinson's in healthy people are about the same average. Again, that's another leading indicator. Also, just not that we see increases of these things with patients with MSA, but we also see decreases from normal. So one of those decreases would be Bacterium, which is right here in the middle. You see how blue Parkinson's is halfway up, healthy control people are all the way up, and MSA is at least half of what the Parkinson's is. And Bacterium is a normally harmless environmental skin colonizer, plays a role in reduction may indicate loss of microbial diversity. In MSA patients, we also see in the cervical area, yeah, auxiliary, the Janobacter. Janobacter is third from the bottom. You see healthy control, green is all the way up, and red MSA is down, with Parkinson's is all being way down. So Janobacter is usually a minor non-pathogenic skin organism. Lower levels may reflect altered local pH or glandular secretions. pH is everything with skin. That's absolutely for sure. Now, so the meaning of the cervical pattern MSA seems to shift the neck microbiome away from its usual stable community and toward bacteria associated with inflammation, moisture changes, and reduced diversity. This could relate to autonomic dysfunction affecting skin glands, sweating, and immune response. Very important. Now, in the armpits or axillary, microbiome changes in MSA patients with MSA would see increased coronary bacteria, but I'm not saying that correctly. They're looking for increases. Now, you see all three at the very top here are elevated with the healthy Parkinson's and MSA, so they're all elevated. That change is a major sweat-associated bacteria. Increased levels are strongly linked to changes in sweat composition and autonomic dysfunction. Both are seen in MSA. So it would be normal. It would not be unusual to see Parkinson's in blue and MSA in red, both being elevated to an extent, because we do have autonomic dysfunction and sweat issues with MSA and Parkinson's as well. We also see an increase in um, which is third from the top. Slightly increase. Healthy control is way up there, but slight increase. That is an environmental gram-negative organism not usually dominant on skin. Its rise suggests it's a disturbed microbial landscape where non-typical species can grow. So blue and red is not supposed to be on this chart at all, but yet it is. So that's something to think about. Also in the armpit area with the skin, but we would see a decrease, especially versus Parkinson's, of the Feingoldea. Feingoldea is the second from the top. That is an anaerobic skin bacterium, lower abundance compared to Parkinson's disease populations may indicate metabolic or moisture differences in MSA that are less favorable for this anaerobic. So again, MSA is off the chart compared to Parkinson's and healthy control. Again, just another indicator of possible MSA or Parkinson's. So what's the meaning of the armpit area? Well, MSA appears to favor sweat-associated bacterium while reducing anaerobic Feingoldea, producing a distinct signature from PD. This fits with MSA's more severe autonomic dysfunction, which alters sweating patterns and skin moisture more dramatically than PD. The skin moisture and sweating patterns I can attest to for all that's for sure. Overall, across both these sites, right, the more the coronary bacterium and bacillus is linked to sweat changes and reduced skin barrier protection, more Rotella and Streptococcus shifts toward mucosal type or inflammation associated bacteria, and having less Fungolia bacterium and Genobacter results in a loss in normal commensal balance and microbial diversity. Why this matters for MSA research? These patterns can serve as non-invasive biomarkers and may reflect autonomic dysfunction of sweat glands, immune changes in neurodegenerative disease, and alterations in skin environment caused by MSA progression. This is the second picture is this photo that I took from the article, right? It shows that having these alterations in the skin microbiome these are directly connected to cognition, autonomic dysfunction, and fine motor control in general. So this is a test that is something that, very distinct alterations compared to Parkinson's and healthy control. So from this small pilot testing, they were able to see distinct different differences between Parkinson's and healthy control subjects. And also these microbial changes correlate with clinical symptoms and disease severity, suggesting potential for diagnostic and prognostic use. This having a lot of this or a little of this also correlates to having a lot of this symptom or a little bit of this. It's one for one when we talk about how bad symptoms are. So again, the next steps are to widen this pilot program for trials. Um, but we have something in the works in China, and they're very, very good with in the medical community. Their research institutes. To me, the name of the article, I will cite the article website into the link below. This is something that's very interesting. And we may have in the very near future have a skin swab diagnostic test, like you have when you're a kid. They give you a little stamp on your skin and see if you have, I forget what the disease is. So something as simple as that. Something is checking for an allergy per se. So I hope you find this beneficial. Um, and again, my voice is up and down, but I thank you for watching. If you liked it, please give us some feedback. On behalf of Daisy and myself, we wish you a very safe end of the year to you and your family. And we will be back with another video. Thank you very much.